Welcome back to American Wisdom Hub, where timeless American sayings meet powerful, real-life stories. Today, we're diving into one of the most important lessons we often forget in our fast-paced world. Don't judge a book by its cover. We pass by strangers every day at work, on the street, in a diner, and we think we know who they are, just by looking at them. But sometimes, behind the quietest face, lies the biggest story. This is the story of Ben. A man people ignored, misjudged, dismissed. Until the day everything changed. Part 1, The Man in the Corner Booth. The diner on Fifth Avenue had been around for over 40 years. Regulars came for the coffee, the pancakes, and the comfort of familiarity. But more than the food or service, what most people remembered was the man who always sat in the back corner booth, quiet, unshaven, wearing a frayed brown jacket and a faded baseball cap. Every morning at precisely 7:15, Ben would walk in, sit at the same booth, order a black coffee and a plain bagel, and spend an hour reading a tattered old book. He barely spoke to anyone beyond the occasional thank you or good morning. The waitstaff. To most customers, Ben looked like someone who had given up. His clothes were worn, his shoes almost falling apart. A few whispered he might be homeless. Others assumed he was mentally unstable or perhaps even dangerous. Kids were told not to stare. Newcomers were quietly warned, just. But Ben N.A. then came. It was A.S. No nay. But something about Ben's presence intrigued Ellie. His book, an old volume of M.H. Do you Li? Ben looked up. IV Ellie Smill. The next day, she brog. No sugar. Oh sorry. She said. In the weeks that followed, Ellie learned more. That he used to be a professor. That he loved history. That he lost his wife to cancer 4 years ago and had no children. That he was living in a tiny studio apartment above a bookstore. That his world had grown small and quiet, but he found rhythm in it. And slowly, through brief chats, she began to understand that Ben was not crazy or homeless or useless. He was grieving. He was processing. And he was still deeply human. Ketuk fan one tai day. Fan tu sekve bien ko bat ngos araknca kong dong boak phi en in likach ho dan gia con nuoi, va ben tro ton nuoi ma kong aingos the doi kuok song qua ho. Part 2, The Day Everything Changed. It was a bitter morning on January 3 when the fire broke out. The apartment building on Ashford Street, just 3 blocks from the diner, had been old and neglected for years. That day, a faulty wire sparked in the basement. Within minutes, smoke was pouring out of windows. Sirens screamed through the neighborhood. Ellie was walking to work when she saw it, flames licking the upper floors, people screaming from balconies. She dropped her phone and ran toward the crowd. Among the chaos, someone shouted, "There are still people inside." Firefighters hadn't arrived yet. Neighbors panicked but didn't know what to do. The front door was blocked by debris. Smoke made it almost impossible to see. And then someone pushed past the line. Ben. He wasn't running. He was walking fast, eyes clear, breathing steady. Ellie almost didn't recognize him at first. He had no jacket, no scarf. Just that same old hat, now backward on his head. Is he insane? Someone shouted. He'll die in there. But Ben didn't stop. He pulled a bandana from his pocket, tied it over his mouth, and slipped inside through a side entrance like he had done it 100 times before. 15 minutes passed. The fire truck still hadn't broken through the crowd. Then suddenly Ben appeared at the second-floor window, carrying a little girl wrapped in a blanket. He kicked open the glass, shielded her with his body, and dropped her into the arms of the people below. Then he disappeared again. In and out, 3 more times. Each time bringing out a tenant. A woman in her 80s. A disabled man on the 3rd floor. A teenage boy too frozen in fear to move. By the time the firefighters took control of the blaze, Ben was sitting on the curb, wrapped in an emergency blanket, his hands black with soot. The paramedics tried to load him into an ambulance, but he refused. "I'm fine," he said. "Check on the others." The news spread like wildfire. Ben, the quiet man in the diner, the weirdo in the corner booth, had saved 4 people from a burning building. And as the story unfolded, so did the truth. He hadn't just been a professor. He had been a search and rescue expert in the military before becoming an academic. He'd trained firefighters in wilderness survival. He'd written 2 published books on crisis management. He was a decorated veteran. And after losing his wife, he had withdrawn, yes, but he had never stopped being who he was: brave, calm under pressure, and deeply selfless. The next morning, Ben didn't show up at 7:15. Instead, the booth had a single rose on the table. A note, handwritten by Ellie, said, "To the man we all misunderstood. Thank you for reminding us to look deeper. You're more than just a face in the corner. You are a hero." He came in 2 days later, modest as ever. He didn't want attention. But people clapped anyway. And Ellie, she brought him a coffee and a sugar-free muffin, and this time, he accepted it with a smile. Conclusion: Ben never asked for recognition. But his actions rewrote every assumption people had made about him. His story became a symbol for the community. A reminder that you can't know someone's worth just by looking at their clothes, their silence, or their scars. Because true value, true strength is often invisible to the eye. Don't judge a book by its cover. Ben taught them that. And they would never forget it.